Well, Merry Schlockmas, everybody. I am Darby Ellis Lewis Wilson, and I am joined by my good buddy, Chris Anonymous. We are here to talk about the second part, the addition, the sequel to Silent Night, Deadly Night. Stick around to the end because we're going to say another movie that we're going to watch next week after Christmas, which is also a Christmas movie. But first, we have to talk about this crazy movie. Chris, what is up? A lot of alliteration there for me.
A whole lot of alliteration. What's up, man? Yeah, it's nice seeing you not in person again on the camera.
That's right.
Yeah,
we were going to film this, like pre-record this weekend because we were actually together in Deadwood, and we thought like, oh, we could do like this awesome like in-person special where we record in like one of the haunted hotels in Deadwood, and it would just be a fun thing to do. But of course, I forgot any type of camera equipment, so we couldn't do it. And so we're just doing it the same old way we've always done it. But
classic,
classic Darby. Wah, wah.
I meant classic show.
Oh yeah, the classic show. That's perfect. So in classic fashion, we have a really great movie to talk about this week.
This is a perfect piece of schlock.
Oh, it's like the heavens open and
this
and
is
light
like
shone down.
When you think about schlock and you think of all the good things and the bad things that may be. Mm-hmm. This makes me want to talk about schlock, Darby.
That's right. I don't even know what to say about this movie. I feel like before we talk about the movie, before we do our good, bad, and schlock, we have to talk about the movie before we talk about the movie. My brain doesn't even know how to categorize what I saw.
So I'm gonna throw out a couple questions about the movie right now that can be like marinating in the back of your head as we do the show. So is it a sequel or is it a remix?
I'm kind of going back and forth on that because it's it really just doesn't seem like a sequel to me. And that's probably my biggest problem with it. Even though it has all of this stuff from the first movie, it just doesn't seem like a sequel to me. So the very first movie we reviewed on Schlock was Corona Zombies, and it's an unaired episode. It's the missing pilot, but
as opposed to all the other missing episodes,
right? Yeah, we reviewed that movie. It's a movie cut together with other movies to make a completely different movie. And this feels a lot more like that.
Yeah, it feels like a remix almost.
But
like
dare I say, not as good. I know you didn't like Corona Zombies at all, but this is like that, but I feel like maybe not as well put together as that movie was.
I would say that this movie, boy, I don't think either of them are put together very well.
I might be using some very extreme language there.
I laughed for similar reasons and for different reasons at both movies. I think there were more actual jokes that landed in the Corona Zombies.
Yeah.
But this has the ultimate line that forgives everything. Every sin this movie has done is forgiven in one line and one performance.
I think I know. I know what it is. But every line is a one-liner.
This is true.
Anyway, so yeah, I'm so out of it because I just don't even know what to say about this movie.
Well, let's start. Let me start with the good. Go ahead.
Let me say some facts about it first.
Oh yeah,
so
okay. Movie, and I have some facts too. So yeah. You start with facts.
It costs. I got two conflicting costs to make this movie. It was $100,000 to $250,000 to make. It only made a little over $150,000. So total flop. They didn't get out of it what I think they wanted to get out of it, which was to basically make money off of a movie that had already been made. Because so the initial idea was to, as you said, remix the original. And as we talked about with the original, it didn't get to be in theaters for very long because of all of the controversy surrounding it. And so it somewhat makes sense that a studio would be like, hey, we really need to like recoup costs on this movie. Can you just shoot some extra footage and essentially put this movie out again? And then maybe we can make some more money back on it. And that makes sense to me. I think that's what they tried to do, and it didn't turn out so great.
Yeah, it's like when you're playing blackjack and you double down, right? And then yeah, just you bust.
Good analogy. Sounds like you've been playing blackjack lately. So the director of this film was actually the editor of the original film, which I think says a lot. I mean, it's absolutely just a continuation and trying to, as you said, double down.
It's interesting because most of his work is as an editor. He only directed one other movie called Street Soldiers in '91. And then he did like this short film in like 2015. He worked as an editor more, but nothing I'd really heard of.
Yeah.
Even in like a schlock way of like, oh, that's a classic crappy horror movie or something like that.
Yeah. So the original, so they originally filmed it, or they did film it in 10 days, I think, trying to get the bare minimum out of it. And it plays really well in some parts and doesn't in others.
Yes.
Would you agree with that? Okay.
100%.
And I think it's an interesting idea. They tried to make it as like this movie or the previous movie was just the ravings of a madman in an asylum. And they just want them to cut in some new scenes to sort of put in that underlying story.
Right.
But
that's
then
what
they like went and filmed
made
like
a sequel.
Yeah. And then they like made a whole other sequel with it. And that's something that I think is interesting. And we see remnants of that throughout, but it doesn't really play very well. Anyway,
it doesn't play well, but I have a theory about this movie that makes it possibly really cool, but I'll save that to the end. I'll save that for Schlock. All right. So the other interesting
I'm open to theories.
The other interesting thing about this is how isolated it is from cinema in general. Except for the director, Lee Harvey, who was the editor on the first and then edited this, no one really has a lot of connection to anything else. The cinematographer had a handful of things. The only other thing I'd heard of was the Garbage Pail Kids movie, which we should probably watch sometime if it's on
definitely.
Tubi. A lot of the actors never did a whole lot of anything else, a little TV here and there. The only thing that some of the really small bit actors, the Dr. Henry Bloom, he was in an episode of X-Files, Legally Blonde 2, Evan Almighty. Like he was just in a bunch of sequels. Like he was in Silent Night, Deadly Night Part 2. The Lone Shark, he was in. You recognize him from a lot of TV and different things, but all the main actors not really in anything. Cinematographer didn't do a whole lot else. Director didn't really direct anything else. The writer, some of them were producers who didn't really produce a whole lot. One of the writers was mainly a sound guy. So like a lot of people were like in different roles. Like, well, I'm the writer producer now, but they'd never really, according to IMDb, done anything like that before or after.
Yeah.
Like, it just feels very isolated and away from everything else that these people had done, which is really interesting.
Well, it feels very isolated. It's
to me
like
an anomaly.
A truly unique movie.
Yeah, it really is.
So Yeah, are you ready for the good? I'll throw out some good.
Throw some good out.
So, and this is why it's so hard for me to quantify so we have a low budget, and they do some actually very brilliant, interesting low budget shots, right? So I can think of a few scenes right off the top of my head. I think I have a picture of the one where it's right after he escapes the asylum and he gets the Santa outfit. So we don't see him like killing the Santa or like putting the outfit on. We don't see him like stabbing or beating anybody down.
But then it pans down.
We just get this long, we just get this long shot of a wall, and we see like a picture of a Santa, and the guy's like, ho, 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 hey, how are you? Oh, wait, oh God. And we hear it all, and it keeps panning over until we get to him in the phone booth.
And then behind the glass.
Right. And I think that's really interesting. We have another shot while he's in Mother Superior's house. And this is where it like really hit me. And I didn't get a screenshot of this because it kind of happens so quick, and it's pretty action oriented. So there wasn't really one great shot of it that I could screenshot anyway. But he's in Mother Superior's house and he's wrecking the whole place. And the shot that we get is a silhouette of him swinging the axe around. And we hear a bunch of items breaking and glass shattering and things like that. And I just thought that was so brilliant, because I know that like as a low budget filmmaker, one of the things you try to do is you try to get a cool set. So maybe like you get permission to film in some historic old house or something like that. But the problem is that you can't do anything really epic in that old house because you can't destroy it, right? You can't get it messy. You can't get blood splatter everywhere. You can't start destroying antique vases or anything. And so I think that's a really interesting idea, to just get a silhouette and then add in the sound later. And it implies everything that all of the chaos and destruction that would cost you a lot of money, building an extra set or
right.
Things.
You would have had to throw out that great car explosion if you wanted to break some stuff.
Right. Yeah. And I mean, they do it right after, let's see, when he escapes the asylum. They don't show him killing his doctor. They just show his dead body there. So that's some makeup. And then you hear people on the outside of the room he was kept in going, oh no, he's out, help. And then it just tells you everything you need to know. And I just thought that was really brilliant.
They definitely used. Yeah, I'll agree with you. They used stylized shots and ideas to make up for their lack of budget, that is a smart, very cool thing to do. And some of them are really cool. There are even simple shots like how you don't see him until the garbage can is lifted up. Like that have this weird kind of style it doesn't necessarily work 100%, but it's still, they were trying for something that was kind of unique. And I'm like, it's kind of cool. It's simple, but like, it's kind of cool. What else do you have as a good column?
That is probably the only thing that I have that I think is like solidly good. And anything else that I would think is good, it transitions so much into my schlock category that I'm just going to leave it at. I think that there is some very interesting shots in this.
Okay,
some interesting use of that very low budget and that very small time frame.
Yeah, I have absolutely nothing written in my good column for the sole reason that everything I love in this movie that I thought was good is just 80 to 100% schlock. So there's lots I love in this movie, but just to say that it's, good, the good is, like you said, so interwoven with the schlock that I'm saving it for schlock.
Yeah. Well, and it's really hard to tell on some of these things. Like, is it good? Is it good because it's missed the mark so bad that like,
right. Is it so bad that it becomes good?
Or is it like, was that on purpose? So anyway, we'll get to that, but yeah. Well, why don't you start us off with the bad?
Okay, so the bad man, too much footage from part one. I mean, I get that you didn't have a lot of time or budget, and you weren't actually set out to film a sequel initially. But if you're going to go that way, I mean, everything we complained about part one, where it's just this really, really long setup, and like, so we have to go through the whole childhood thing, then the whole orphanage with nuns thing, then too much stuff. So it feels like we're just watching.
Instead of like,
it's a 40-minute recap of the previous episode on a TV show.
Right, exactly. It's half the movie.
It's half the movie, and then the movie starts. It felt like like every season of of TV shows where there's one episode where it's just flashbacks of scenes from all the other. It felt like that.
I think my problem with that is that, like, I actually really don't mind that so much. It's that
they made it work.
They didn't use it very wisely.
Yeah,
so
it doesn't work.
One thing I thought was interesting, and this is kind of in my Schlock column. I didn't know where to place this, but I thought it was interesting that this movie, like, actually, it isn't as graphic as the original.
They
cut
not
out,
by far.
Yeah, I mean, it's still got nudity and violence and language and everything, but like they cut out a lot of like the really intense stuff, like the mom getting her throat slit, right?
You hint at it, you have certain shots, but it's got.
And so, of all the things to edit, right? If you're trying to make like another shocking sequel or whatever, why leave that stuff out and leave other things out? Like I thought that they just had maybe a very specific idea of like, here's what we need to do with this footage again, so that we can get it hopefully in theaters and make some money off of it again.
But like, then why not cut back to the grandpa? Because they cut to scenes that obviously there was no way that Ricky as a person, as an infant, could have known about. You hear him say that his brother told him everything. So then if you can show the parents getting killed by Santa as his memory, then you could also show the grandpa, which is also very creepy and fun.
And also there's the killings that he did on his way back to the orphanage in the first movie that he never had the chance to tell Ricky about, which raises an interesting question, right? So the original intent of this movie was that it's supposed to show that the first movie is potentially just the ravings of a madman in an asylum. And
which
so
is similar to my theory.
There are some problems with that, in that I don't think it's a terrible idea. But one, why make it Ricky? Why not make it a different version of Billy from the first one, right? Why do they specifically have to have it continued on? The other part is that, so one of my favorite scenes in this movie, the movie theater scene.
That's one of my favorite scenes.
The movie that he's watching is like the opening footage from the original movie where the killer Santa.
You're teasing it out of me, man. I was going to save my theory for the end, but I'm just going to lay it on you now.
Lay it out.
Okay, so Ricky, the Silent Night, Deadly Night Part 1 is a movie in this world. And when Ricky was a child, he saw this movie, and it traumatized him so much that he was institutionalized. And so he's just recounting stuff that he saw in the movie as if it were real and as if he were Ricky and it was his life. And then when he goes to the movie theater with his girlfriend, they're watching. This isn't a new movie. This is like a midnight screening of a classic, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so they're watching Silent Night, Deadly Night, the movie, and it re-triggers him to go on that whole killing spree there because he thought that was his life.
Right.
So Part 1 is just an actual movie that this kid saw a long time ago, and it fried his brain so much that he thought it was a real thing. It was his life. And then when he goes to the theater and rewatches the film, and he's like, no, I love this film. And that's when he goes, I mean, he did killing before that.
And that was that was an odd thing in there because when they're first in the theater, he's like super into the preview because it's like blood, guts, gore. And she's like, ooh, do you like this stuff? He's like, yeah. And then he asks her, what's this movie about anyway? So he doesn't know what the movie is. And she tells him. And then that's when he like,
right.
Punish. Like he like zones in. And he goes
because he hadn't seen it since he was a little kid, and so like it snaps back in his head,
right? So it really kind of puts it in the realm of Joker, where you gave me that theory once a long time ago when it came out, whenever Joker came out, that he had watched Kings of Comedy and he was recounting his origin story as that movie. And so it's kind of something similar. So Joker essentially stole the plot from Silent Night, Deadly Night Part 2.
Correct. Yeah.
So
Joker is it's
a very meta and very smart movie.
Yeah. Yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Potentially.
Yeah, that's why I'm saying if my theory is true, then that makes this movie like pretty cool and fun.
Well, yeah, I really like that. I think you should write a book on it.
Yep, that's happening.
Or do a podcast on it. So yeah, I think that's a great theory. I want to move on with some bad things though.
Yes. Yeah. So I'm done with bad. So you throw it out.
So I don't like that they used like essentially 3.5 different actors to play Ricky.
In what, 5 minutes of new footage?
Yeah, exactly. Like to me, with the low budget and the small amount of time, you know, all of these constraints that were put onto them, while they did some very cool things with the shots, I think that they could have used that budget and time a little more wisely without using these other actors. One, so I say 3.5 because they like use the Ricky from the first movie, right? Like only partially. They just like change the shot as it's panning up him to a different actor. I really think they could have cut the stuff out with the little kid Ricky. I think they could have gotten rid of that. And as far as teenage Ricky goes, that the actor that played teenage Ricky was actually older than Eric Freeman when he was filming the movie. And I feel like they could have they just had 2 young men, right? Why couldn't they have just used Eric Freeman for both parts?
Right.
And there may have been some constraints on that, but like I said, I think they could have used their budget and their time a little more wisely in those settings.
I agree with that 100%.
So yeah, we're running out of time as usual. We have some more time for the schlock. I just want to say something that really stuck out to me were the policemen, the concerned cops right after Ricky goes on his killing spree, after he kills Chip, the ex-boyfriend, and then his girlfriend, and then he goes on his killing spree, which I love your theory. It really makes a lot of things pan out a little bit better, which I'll maybe circle back to. But he's on his killing spree. He gets the gun from the first cop that he kills, the incompetent cop. And then the 2 cops that block him off with the cop car, he's getting ready to shoot himself. And they've seen him murder like 2 people.
No, don't do it.
No,
don't throw your life
be
away.
A fool. Like they're just so concerned. Like I was like, wow, these guys must have gone through some type of sensitivity training because they don't want this dude who's obviously just gone on a mass murdering spree to I don't know, think about his life and turn it around, I guess.
Yeah, like you still have something to live for.
Yeah.
Come back from this.
Yeah, that had me rolling. I was laughing so hard on it.
The whole killing spree montage is just one of the best things in the whole movie.
And I don't want to keep cutting you off, but
yeah,
that's why I think your theory is great, because that's something that I had a really hard time with. That montage is because the few first killings, like they kind of make sense because he's like, oh, naughty, right? It fits in with the theme of the other movie.
It's the exact same arc as Billy in part 1. The first couple kills make sense.
Right. But then the next one, he just kills this guy who's like, hey, what's going on? and then he does the classic
garbage day.
Yeah, it gave us a beautiful, beautiful meme.
Oh man, that just his delivery.
What a look! What a beautiful look!
Just
garbage day,
man. Everyone else in the world is 100% right. That is, it just makes the movie. Like without that line, no. With that line, yes.
Well, and the thing is, and so this was going to go in my good column, but it's in my schlock column because I don't know. I don't know if this was the true intent or not, but I feel like it is Eric Freeman's performance that makes this movie what it is. Now I can't say if it's a good performance, like if he was like, this is how I'm going to do it. I am an actor. I have gotten myself into this zone. Or if he's like a bad actor.
No, it's neither, and it's both. From what I hear, he was getting conflicting directions from like the director and the producer. So one of them wanted to play it serious and serial killery, and the other wanted it to be very, very over the top and kind of like Freddy Krueger, like one-liners, and so like that's why you have this really all over the place performance, is because he was being told one thing in one scene and another thing in another. Well, and he was just all in, man.
Just everything that comes out of his mouth is just pure one-liner gold. I mean, it's
I really enjoyed all the voiceover stuff too. I mean, some of it didn't work, but just his delivery on all of it was just like, I mean, oh man.
You say the garbage line, you know, that's kind of like the meme iconic line, but I mean, there's just so many other good things. When he's in the movie theater and the heckler, he goes up to him and he goes, shh, naughty. And like pummels him or kills him or something. I don't know. The part where right after he kills the guy by running him over with the Jeep, and it goes back to the naughty. Yeah, that part.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm working backwards here. But he kills the guy with the red Jeep, and we go back to the asylum, and the doctor is like writing stuff down, and Ricky appears out of nowhere in the frame, and he goes,
"Hey, Doc."
Yeah, red car. Good point. Like, just his inflection in every sentence he speaks.
Yeah, evidently he
iconic.
Eric
schlock.
Freeman wrote, and there's a short film called Ricky Today, and it's like this documentary about like Ricky today. Like I don't know if he's in jail or what, but I'm gonna try and find that. Okay, but. So we're really running out of time. I got one more schlock thing, and that's my schlockality. The umbrella, Ella. This is one of my favorite horror movie kills of all time.
That was brilliant.
Just brilliant. And this actor is amazing. I loved the Loan Shark. And he's the one you've seen in a lot of different things. I loved his whole performance, and then the best part is after it's all done, it starts to rain.
Yeah.
Like after he kills him and he falls to the ground, and then the blood kind of runs down the umbrella. Whew.
Just some nice irony. Yeah. There's some great ideas in this movie.
Yeah. Yeah. This beats any kill in Silent Night, Deadly Night Part 1.
Yeah. Well, man, I think having talked it out, I think your theory really wraps this movie up nicely and really puts a perspective on it that makes puts a bow on it, a bowed perspective that makes it a much better movie than I think
what it probably is.
But it'll definitely make me look at it in a new light, and will probably make me watch it again at some point in my life.
Well, because you see, when he's a little kid, the nuns walking down the street trigger him. But if they were nuns that he saw in the movie, like it's just little things. I mean, you could argue that it's nuns he saw when he was in the orphanage too. So,
yeah.
What's next week, man?
Next week, we're going to get all this serial killer and slashing and whatnot out. It's going to be after Christmas, but we're going to do another Christmas movie. We're going to do the Larry the Cable Guy Jingle All the Way 2. I've heard it's great. Until next time, I'm Darby Ellis Lewis Wilson. This is Chris Anonymous. We've been compelled by Schlock. Give us a like, comment, or share, and we'll see you next week, everybody. Peace.
Schlock, schlocky, schlock, schlock, schlock. I am